Hello and welcome to State of the Union. I'm Stefan Grobler in Brussels. The sudden eruption of violence in the Middle East has laid bare the divisions within the European Union over this decades-long conflict. Again, though the EU universally condemned the attacks by Hamas on Israeli towns in kibbutzim 2 weeks ago, Israeli retaliatory strikes against the Gaza Strip did not get unconditional support. This week, EU governments tried to patch things up by finding common ground and, finally, speak with one voice. Not a small feat, given that you had to reconcile the most pro-Israeli member states like Germany and Austria with the most critical like Spain and Ireland.
It is Hamas who are the terrorists, not the Palestinian people, so we have to care for the Palestinian people and their humanitarian needs. There is no contradiction in standing with Israel in solidarity and acting for the humanitarian needs for the Palestinians.
That position, support for Israel and humanitarian aid for the Palestinians, is not rocket science. It's not complicated, and one wonders why the EU went through a week-long cacophony to get there. On a brighter note, EU leaders had reason to celebrate this week. Or most of them, I should say. The right-wing nationalist government in Poland, a long-time Brussels nemesis, which time and again had antagonized and frustrated EU leaders over basic democratic freedoms, is about to be removed from the political chessboard. Sunday's elections brought about heavy losses for the ruling Law and Order party and big gains for the pro-European opposition. Three parties under the stewardship of former Prime Minister and EU Council President Donald Tusk now have the majority to form a coalition government. And the exuberant candidate left no doubt that soon fresh air will enter Warsaw.
Ten wynik mówi sam za siebie. Tego już nikt nie oszuka, tego już nikt nam nie zabierze. Wygraliśmy demokrację, wygraliśmy wolność, wygraliśmy znowu naszą kochaną Polskę.
A change of government in Poland could have important consequences for Europe. To discuss this, let's bring in an expert on rule of law issues that have been at the center of all the controversies between Brussels and Warsaw for years. Joining me now is Katarina Bali, Vice President of the European Parliament, Social Democrat and a former Justice Minister of Germany. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So, Donald Tusk called the election outcome the rebirth of the Polish Republic. How do you see it?
Well, he has a point there because the former government was going down a path of autocracy in abolishing the independence of the judiciary, in concentrating media in its own hands. So it was sort of following the path of Viktor Orban in Hungary. And it is very, very, good and relieving to see that the Polish people chose another path.
Tusk will have to manage a three-party coalition, which is not easy, as you know. What will be his biggest challenge?
Well, it's not only a three-party coalition. It's also that within the three parties, there is one that actually has sort of a very wide range of politicians in it. So it is a challenge, very much so. The focus was so much on the person Donald Tusk, which I found a bit disturbing. I think he really has to be careful not to see this as a government Tusk. It is not.
Do you expect Poland to fully comply with European rulings and directives going forward?
I do, absolutely. All three coalition partners will be very much dedicated to democracy and the rule of law. And all of them have said that they will turn back these developments, these autocratic developments. That will not be easy either. So only if they put into place the decisions of the ECJ, that's already something.
Poland was one of the usual suspects in the European Union. Will the election put more pressure on Hungary now to be more compromising? Or, on the contrary, will Viktor Orban harden his attitude towards Brussels?
Well, at least he loses his closest ally. I mean, we have this Article 7 procedure, which can be applied when you violate the rule of law constantly. And this is in place against Poland and Hungary at the moment, and they give each other the veto so that nothing really can move in the end. And this, I think, is gone now for Viktor Orban. So he will face this this pressure by the European Union to comply with European law now more on his own. What kind of behavior that will cause as a reaction by him is difficult to foresee.
All right, Katarina Bali, Vice President of the European Parliament, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today.
You're very welcome.
The aforementioned Viktor Orban also had an interesting week. Instead of joining a virtual EU summit on the Middle East, he preferred talks with Vladimir Putin in China. This is remarkable, as heads of EU governments have largely been giving Putin the cold shoulder since Russia invaded Ukraine last year. And for some reason, Orban appeared to be nervous, actually very nervous.
Несмотря на то, что
After the meeting, Putin said this about Orban. The Prime Minister of Hungary belongs to a small cohort of European politicians who know how to defend their interests, do it persistently, in my opinion, quite tactfully. No wonder Orban is more and more isolated in Europe, and right there in Beijing, I'm sure he could feel it. That's it for this edition. I'm Stefan Grobler. Thank you for watching. Have an excellent week.